Hey everyone, my name is Mary. Welcome to SpOT, and thank you for tuning in today. I'm a second year student at Cleveland State University in the Occupational Therapy program, and today we're going to be covering communication skills and how to transfer from military speak to civilian speak. We'll be providing some tips and resources for you to help improve overall communication skills. And today I'm lucky enough to be joined by my classmate Maddie, who's also going to help me cover this topic.
Hi everyone, my name is Maddie and I am so excited to be Mary's co-host today on the topic of communication skills. I'm also a second year student at Cleveland State in the Occupational Therapy program, and I am looking forward to discussing with you all the importance of effective communication skills within the veteran population. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thanks, Maddie. So let's first start out by explaining what exactly occupational therapy is. It is a profession that helps people across the lifespan, from treating newborns in the NICU to geriatrics in a hospice setting. OTs help clients participate in meaningful activities through therapeutic interventions. We address areas of occupation, which can be activities of daily living, so things like grooming, bathing, dressing, instrumental activities of daily living, so like things like grocery shopping and laundry, sleep and rest, work, education, play, leisure, and social participation. OTs take more of a holistic approach to treatment to promote health by treating the whole body, and they can work in a variety of settings such as hospitals, schools, rehab centers, private practices, mental health facilities, nursing homes, inpatient, outpatient, and of course, the VA. So for today, like I said, we are covering communication skills. We communicate every day with others, so it's a big part of our lives. Communication is important in our work, education, social participation, and advocating for ourselves and our needs. It can be applied in a variety of situations. It's very important when transitioning back to civilian life. That is often a time when most veterans struggle with communication. Communication comes in different forms such as verbal, nonverbal, written communication such as email, texting, social media, things like that, listening, and visual communication. So transitioning back to civilian life can be a difficult time, so it's important to have good communication skills to express to those around you if you need help in your transition. Most people around you will not understand military speak, so it's important to enhance your communication skills to make the transition smoothly. OTs can work with veterans to help their communication and social skills through the use of occupation and education. Maddie, can you think of anything you want to add in about OT or communication skills and why they're important?
Yeah, so engaging in meaningful occupations is a great way to address the communication skills because you're doing something meaningful to you. It can be with peers with similar interests in a casual setting to improve on your skills. So it's a great way to improve. It's a great way and so important to be able to advocate for yourself, especially during a transitioning time.
Awesome, good points. So next, I just want to address some learning objectives that I hope that you accomplish today, but at the end of this video. We want to make sure that you can identify communication skills that can be beneficial when transitioning from military speak to civilian speak in any setting. Identify why these communication skills are important and to become familiar with resources that can be utilized to improve communication skills. So why are we talking about all this and why is it important? Transitioning from military speak to civilian speak can be challenging, and sometimes veterans can be misunderstood. There are so many valuable experiences and skills learned in the military. We want you to be able to communicate those skills and experiences so civilians can appreciate them as well. So one way we can do this is by translating military terms into civilian terms. I'll post a link at the end so everyone can see it, and we'll go over it later, but a great resource we found when researching this topic was a website translating military terms into civilian terms specifically geared towards employers. So these terms can be used on a resume or in an interview, but they can be very helpful for translation. We want to make sure these skills aren't lost in translation, but communicated in a way for civilians to understand and not misinterpret. Valuable experiences in the military, such as leadership or social skills, can be taken into the workplace and used as an advantage for sure. So not using acronyms or military specific terms is important. Think about your audience or the person you're speaking to. What's their background or knowledge, and make sure to communicate effectively so that they can understand you.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention a communication technique that might be helpful. So make sure you to always listen to others in the workplace or anywhere really before responding, especially not responding right away out of emotion. Make it a practice to pause for a few seconds after the other is talking to gather your thoughts.
That's a great point, Maddie. Thank you. That way it gives you more time to formulate an appropriate response in your head rather than just speaking it out loud right away. It's an awesome tip. Just a simple pause can make that much difference in a conversation. So not only in the workplace are communication skills important, but also in the classroom. Communicating with your classmates and your professors are important for your education. When returning to civilian life, one of your main roles and new routines may be related to being a student. In the military, just about every aspect of your lives are regulated, but in a classroom, there's more open discussions, opinions are encouraged, communication's not regularly strictly regulated. This is a major change when going from military to civilian life. Therefore, it could be common for a veteran to be more quiet in class, kind of staying silent as a sign of respect. Social participation in our education is important and can help you become more engaged. Research shows if you have a good relationship with your professor, you might be more willing to speak out in class and participate in discussions. This could be a good strategy in the first couple of weeks to introduce yourself to your professor to start building a relationship. It's good practice for good communication skills and can lead to further communication with your peers. Finding classmates with similar interests can make communicating and transitioning smooth. This is another spot where the tip that Maddie previously shared with us earlier about pausing to formulate a response in your head and speaking it could be helpful. In the classroom, with professors or classmates. Know that it's okay to start building rapport with your classmates. Civilian communication is a lot less formal than military speak, so it's acceptable to have conversations that veer off into another topic. Build your trust and adapt to the informalness of the conversation. Many veterans' communication style is direct, clear, and pretty respectful. That's not always the case for civilians. Communicating effectively and efficiently is so important. One research article I came across had a neat suggestion, and they suggested that military members interact with civilians before exiting the military, or just having slow, progressive interactions with civilians when they return home. This would be an easy way to ease into it and work on communication skills with a smaller group before being thrown into a classroom full of students with very different communication styles than you. I think veterans have a great advantage in their communication styles because of the way they are taught in the military and their experience of being part of a team and communicating with others. Maddie, can you think of a social situation where veterans might be able to implement this situation where they could work on these communication skills?
Yeah, I think going to like a small coffee shop with some peers would be a great way to work on slow progression of interacting with civilians and working on your communication skills. Even just a simple walk in the park or outside somewhere where it's not too overwhelming, but a little exposure would help before being in the classroom.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are great suggestions. I think a small setting, like you said, with something not too overwhelming would be perfect. So many things to talk about in nature or at a coffee shop, really great ways to work on those skills. It's important to keep in mind when you're communicating with others about your tone of voice. You want to keep in mind your civilian setting and not come off too harsh. It's not what you say all the time, but how you say it. So another technique to practice communication skills would be to role play with your friends. If there's someone you feel comfortable and close to, maybe they can help you role play different situations to improve these communication skills. They could provide advice on if appropriate terms are being used that a civilian could understand easily, or give feedback on tone or how approachable your appearance is coming off. So another option instead of role playing would just be to read some books or different case stories, learning about other people's communication styles. That way you can help improve yours to become efficient and effective.
Yeah, Mary, I love the idea of role playing to practice transitioning in your communication skills. I actually have experience with using role playing for interventions in my fieldwork setting in OT, and it has always worked really well to achieve goals.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. We can learn a lot from our fellow colleagues and classmates from their communication styles. You may realize from being around them that you need to shift your tone, phrases, or language to communicate with them smoother. Each person is going to have different communication styles.
Yeah, everyone does have a unique communication style. I remember that was one of the first things we covered in our interdisciplinary class, our different communication styles. Even if someone is different from yours, they can still have different knowledge and skills to offer you to help you learn.
Good point. Thanks, Maddie. Some strengths that come along with being a veteran include being determined, quick, and trying new things. Veterans have strong communication skills, but it's transitioning to civilian life where the tips are needed to improve those skills. Another tip that could be helpful for the classroom would be through written communication. Warming up your tone and written communication would be more approachable and express more of your personality. There's a lot of emailing going on in schools and in the workplace, so it's important to have proper etiquette in your written communication as it is verbal. Maddie, has there ever been a time in your education career that you found it difficult to communicate with a professor or fellow classmate, and how did you handle that situation?
Yes, I have most definitely had an experience like this. There was a time where I forgot to add a citation to a really important paper due for school. I quickly sent an email to my teacher apologizing for the mistake and included the citation in the Word document within the email. It was during midterm, so I'm sure she had an absolutely massive amount of emails in her inbox. So when I got my grade back on the assignment, I was pretty disappointed to see that I had points taken off due to my citation not being included in the paper. But once again, I emailed my teacher asking if she had ever got the first email from a few weeks back. Luckily, she did up and answering this email, but in hindsight, I probably should have told her in person the next day that I emailed her so that she would be aware of my mistake. If I would have just taken this extra step, there would probably have been a lot less confusion for both myself and my teacher.
Thanks. That's a great example for how important communication is, and especially interacting with the different styles of written and in-person communication. Not only are communication skills important in the workplace and the classroom for our education, but they're also important in our relationships. So communication with your spouse, family member, friend, whoever it may be, is so important, especially when returning to civilian life. Without good communication in your relationships, you may feel disconnected from the other. So ways that you could work on this could be through verbal encouragement, humor, empathy, and affections. Like I mentioned before, advocating for yourself is so important, especially in a relationship. A couple tips when communicating in a relationship when returning to your civilian life that I just wanted to touch base on are to bring up one difficult topic at a time. So it can be pretty overwhelming and confusing for the other person and yourself to hear a lot of difficult subjects at once. So just bringing it up one at a time could be a good tip. If it is a serious subject that needs to be addressed, talk about it at a stress-free time, not at the end of the day when you're tired, irritable, or just a stressful situation. Make I statements like I think and I this, not you this and you that, and acknowledge the other person's point of view. Take a break to calm down if a conversation becomes too heated or intense. So maybe walk away for 15 minutes, take a deep breath, gather your thoughts, and then return back to the conversation. Another tip would be to request rather than order. So in the military, it's common to order someone to do something or to accept orders from someone else. Asking someone to do something is more polite in civilian communication, and it allows them the option to accept or decline.
Yeah, Mary, I really think those are great tips to practice.
Thanks, Maddie. Nonverbal communication skills are also very important in relationships. We want to make sure our body language is open and listening to what the other person has to say. So active listening is important to not react to a spouse or friend out of emotion, but be engaged with the person you're speaking with. Good body language can indicate to a person we are interested in what they have to say. Negative body language can be your stance, your arms crossed, looking away, not giving the other person you're talking to some eye contact. Your posture is very important and it should communicate confidence and approachability to new people and situations. Also consider open communication, like we talked about before, similar to the classroom. Don't be silent. It's okay to speak your mind and share your feelings. Don't ignore them. We want to encourage good communication skills so that you can advocate for yourself in your relationships, school, workplace, or wherever it may be. Better communication skills can lead to better relationships. We want to encourage being open and working through conflict, and that's very important.
Yeah, nonverbal communication can say so much when you're trying to have a conversation with somebody. Adapting to civilian life when you're transitioning from the military can be a big change with nonverbal communication.
Definitely, yeah. Thank you for sharing. Maddie and I have actually had some experience at CSU's Veteran and Military Success Center. For the last couple of weeks, we spent time over there running some mental health groups with our service learning class, and we got to communicate with some of the veterans. Maddie, do you have any personal stories from this experience related to communication that you want to share?
Yeah, actually, I do. So, our service learning class had a really great experience with the veterans at the center. That goes to show how important good communication skills are. We were really struggling with finding people to come to the weekly group that our fellow classmates were holding at the Veterans Center on campus. So we ended up communicating this concern to the veterans who were in the center at the time, and we came up with a great plan to begin advertising our groups in the veterans newsletter, on the Facebook page, and just within CSU in general. So actually, by communicating this concern to the correct people, we had new participants join our group the very next session. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, that was a great way that we were able to communicate those concerns so that they could help us out more. It just goes to show how important communication is in different forms. We were able to adapt our communication skills effectively to be able to communicate efficiently.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right, so moving on to our next point, I just want to mention a couple final tips to improve general communication skills for you guys. So the first one being increase your confidence. You know, as a veteran, you have great resources and experiences that are so unique and beneficial. So exude your confidence, especially when you're communicating. Know your strengths. So you have so many strengths to offer. The military set you up for great success. So it might be helpful to write out these strengths so that they're on hand for in the future, for jobs or education, whatever it may be. Active, not reactive listening. So remember to pause for a few seconds and gather your thoughts before you respond to someone, especially out of emotion. And then, like we just talked about, how important body language is. So it's appropriate and respectful body language that matches what you're trying to communicate. Nonverbal communication is just as important as verbal communication. So next, I just wanted to go over a couple of resources with you guys that are available. Let me just share my screen. Or not. Okay, so let me just share my screen here for you guys to see. There's a couple resources that I wanted to go over with you guys that are going to be super helpful for your communication skills. So the first one being the CSU Career Services. They can help you build your resume and translate those military terms into civilian terms. They can give you tips and tricks on how to build your resume, and they're super helpful. They're located at 2124 Chester Avenue, which is in Rhodes Tower. Their hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and on Wednesdays, they have walk-in Wednesdays that can be held over Zoom, so super convenient. The next one is the Career One-Stop Veteran and Military Transition Center. So that's the one that I talked about before. That website is really an easy way for employers to understand your military experiences and skills. It gives you a bunch of different charts, and it can help you translate military terms into civilian terms so that way your skills aren't lost in the translation. The next one being the VA. So they offer a Veterans Employment Toolkit with all kinds of communication tips. So they have different handouts that include how to manage conflict or communicating with employees. So a bunch of different great handouts for you guys to check out there too. And then the last one here is an email tips resource. It gives you tips on how to write an email in a civilian in the business world. So like we talked about how nonverbal and written communication is just as important as verbal communication. There's a bunch of great email writing tips in that website there. So definitely go ahead and check that out. Maddie, do you have anything you want to add about these resources?
Yeah, so those are awesome resources. I definitely think that those should be utilized since they are easy to find for at your convenience and read. Those seem like they would be really helpful in the workplace or classroom. I have actually been to CSU's career services before, and they were so helpful for me. So I know that they would be great with helping a veteran with their resume as well.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you have personal experience with them. Thank you for sharing that. Well, that is everything that we have to cover today for communication. I hope some of these strategies are helpful for you in the future with your education, work, and social participation. We communicate with each other every day, so it's important we have these skills to communicate efficiently and effectively, especially in our occupations. I hope you utilize these resources to your advantage. And to remember to be patient when you're transitioning to civilian life. It can take time to adjust in your communication style, for adjusting, but you're strong. I wish you the best of luck in the future. I know you got this. Bye, everyone. Thank you for watching.
Bye.